How are we doing, mi gente? Thank you, thank you, thank you. I will be quick. My name is Jazmin Chavez, and I am the VP of Movement Building and Infrastructure at Hispanics in Philanthropy. And if you didn't catch me in the session yesterday, it is an absolute pleasure and honor to be with every single one of you here. The joy, the connection, the building that we're doing brings me so much joy in difficult times that we've all shared collectively. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce a super chingona, one of our amazing grantees. Catalina Ruiz-Navarro is a powerful Colombian Caribbean feminist activist and journalist living in Mexico City. She is the editor-in-chief of the feminist Latin American magazine Volcánica, the co-creator of Amazona TV, and has worked as a weekly columnist for El Espectador and El Heraldo in Colombia, writing on feminist topics such as abortion rights in Latin America. Catalina is also the founder of the feminist YouTube channel Estereotipas. Volcánicas, I gotta tell you a little bit about this because narrative is important. It's powerful work that we do at HIP. Volcánicas is bold, feminist, and Latin American investigative journalism. They use the multiple tools of communication to help deconstruct machismo and the patriarchy, and thus advance the achievement of the rights of women and of the LGBT community in Latin America, thus creating a safe space for women's stories in all of their diversity and in all of their beauty to be shared. And Volcánica serves as a really powerful incubator of young feminist voices in the region. So without further ado, Catalina, come on up.
Well, first of all, thank you so much to Hispanics in Philanthropy for creating this space and for bringing us all together. As Jasmine just said, I am Catalina Ruiz-Navarro, feminist, journalist, and philosopher born and raised in Colombia and based in Mexico City. I am the founder of Hoja Blanca, an NGO working for narrative change in favor of human rights. And we do this through two projects. Volcánicas Magazine, where we do Latin American feminist journalism, and Creadoras Camp, a feminist training school for Latin American content creators. There is an ideological dispute taking place on media and social networks where sexist, anti-rights content that promotes authoritarian ideas and radicalizes audiences is published. These radicalizing messages are replicated in the media, creating powerful echo chambers, particularly for the next generations. We have witnessed the impact in Latin American presidential elections, such as Argentina and El Salvador. Since 2016, it has been evident that political communication changed. We receive our information curated by biased algorithms of social networks which favor controversial, radical, emotional messages that privilege polarization. The same algorithms have built bubbles, ideological worlds isolated from others, and that makes more holistic readings of the political climate difficult. On the other hand, content about life and style has an ideology behind it. We are building our social imaginaries on social media to discussions about life and style that are not innocent. They give us ideas of what's aspirational, what types of family we should want, what values we should support, and guess what? Most of the time, it's the values of strict traditional gender roles, where women are dependent and submissive, and heteronormativity is the only possible norm. In Latin America, women's movements are being blamed for the rise of anti-rights authoritarian governments. Analysts are worried that the advancements of women's and LGBTQ+ rights provoked young men, and in consequence, they turned to the right and radicalized. Therefore, it seems that the solution is to slow down the movement and make it more discreet. We went too far, ladies, and now men are angry at us. And to punish us, they are going to vote for an authoritarian macho for president. The joke's on them, on everyone, because only the ultra-rich are not going to get their rights stripped out. I want to challenge this belief, because if it were true, the rise of incels and red-pilled groups on the internet would happen only on regions where feminist movements have advanced. But this is a worldwide, global phenomenon. The bot farms that trolled Amber Heard were mostly based in the Middle East. Bukele puts out at least 200 pieces of content a day. In Mexico, far-right, once secret organization, El Yunque, invests millions in similar strategies. And this is all connected through well-designed machinery deployed in the region, coordinated and also financed by ultra-right groups in Europe and North America. In March, Milei permanently closed the Ministry of Women, Gender, and Diversity in Argentina, after previously banning the use of inclusive language from all public institutions. On the same day, Bukele announced via the Ministry of Education of El Salvador that he would expel all traces of gender ideology from guides, books, and educational materials at schools. All this happened days after the two libertarian presidents met at the Conservative Political Action Conference held in the United States from February 21st to 24th, where they also met with Donald Trump. We do have a masculinity crisis. It is due to economic precariousness in the face of savage capitalism. And in this context, doubling down on patriarchy seems like the only way to retain some sort of power. Backtracking women's rights is a way of authoritarianism. This is why we believe that narrative change that promotes gender rights is the antidote. Maybe we can't compete in terms of volume, but we surely are better at quality and human connection. Let me give an example. In 2018, we launched in Colombia the digital campaign Juntas Abortamos. We have abortions together. We encourage people, particularly women, to tell stories of how they accompanied someone's abortion. It was a beautiful campaign centered on the values of friendship and solidarity, rather than exposing people who chose to have abortions. At first, the campaign was scandalous. They told us that we were trivializing abortion. Up until then, narratives that supported the right to choose centered on gruesome emergencies. Girls of less than 10 years old that needed an abortion because they were raped. Mothers with cancer that could not get treatment because they were pregnant and died, leaving their children orphaned. But abortion is a right, and it should be guaranteed always, not just under extreme conditions. With Juntas Abortamos, Colombian society discovered that abortion is a normal part of women's lives. That women get abortions with their friends. They watch a movie, they ask for a pizza, and they stay for the weekend, and that's it. It's uncomfortable, and it can be painful, but it's not worse than forced maternity. We moved the bar to talk about how everybody has abortions. They are a part of everyday life. This strategy was used before the court ruling that made abortion completely legal until the 24th week in 2022. We probably wouldn't have been able to achieve that if we hadn't banalized abortion. That normalization was controversial then, but ultimately helped move public opinion to our side. We ended up discussing what number of weeks should be the limit, and not whether abortion should be legal or not. This is why it is urgent to create more digital and journalistic content focused on human rights, which reinforces the importance of plurality and democratic principles. Feminist journalism and content creation are a cornerstone for social change and preserving democratic institutions and policies. At Volcánicas magazine, we do rigorous and bold feminist Latin American investigative journalism. We use the tools of journalism and the principles of feminism to transform the discourse of public opinion and explain clearly and straightforwardly the complex political issues that affect us. At Volcánicas, topics such as transfeminism, Afrofeminism, sex work, decoloniality, and antiracism, and indigenous rights are spoken in the first person, with agency, as experts speaking their voices rather than victims. At Creadoras Camp, we find the most charismatic and original voices in the region and bring them into feminism and human rights. And we have trained 86 creators that are joining local social movements as leaders and communicators. We want to tell the story of feminist and the colonial movement in the region, the resilience and creativity that drives them, and the vanguard strategies that make them a global example for social movements. We are reaching young Latin American minds and hearts by informing and connecting them, and most importantly, by mobilizing and inspiring them to resist authoritarian movements and help build a more equal and fair society.